Two people sit down tonight and repeat the same affirmation, word for word, for the same number of minutes. One of them will wake up to a shifted reality within weeks. The other will still be repeating that affirmation 6 months from now, wondering what's broken. The difference between them has nothing to do with effort, consistency, or even desire. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly what separates those who move reality from those who merely talk at it. You've probably experienced this yourself. You did it faithfully, you visualized, you scripted, you repeated, and the world sat there, unmoved, like you'd been whispering into a wall. Meanwhile, someone else picked up the same method casually, almost carelessly, and their reality bent within days. That gap haunted you. It made you think something was wrong with you specifically. That maybe manifestation works for other people, but your case is somehow different, somehow harder, somehow cursed. The real answer is simpler and more uncomfortable than that. Think of any manifestation technique as a syringe. The syringe delivers medicine into the body. A perfectly engineered syringe, sterile, precise, the finest needle money can buy. Now fill it with water. Push the plunger. What happens? Nothing therapeutic. The delivery was flawless. The substance was empty. Your technique is that syringe. Your belief is what fills it. Neville Goddard taught this principle for decades, and most people heard the technique while missing the substance underneath. He said to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Everyone fixated on the word feeling. They tried to manufacture emotion. They squeezed their eyes shut and forced excitement, forced gratitude, forced some synthetic version of joy. But the operative word was never feeling. It was assume. To assume means to accept something as true before evidence confirms it. The feeling Neville described was the natural byproduct of genuine assumption. You can't feel relieved about a debt being paid if some part of you still believes you owe it. So when two people visualize the same scene, one of them is watching a movie, the other is remembering a future they've already accepted. Same closed eyes, same mental images, completely different internal posture. The one who's watching a movie is essentially saying, "I hope this works." The one who's remembering is saying, "This is done." And reality responds to the second posture, because consciousness creates through acceptance, through the state you've settled into as natural. Here's where it gets precise. Your subconscious mind, the part that actually prints reality into form, doesn't receive instructions through repetition alone. It receives instructions through conviction. You can repeat "I am wealthy" 10,000 times. If the dominant feeling underneath those words is "I need this because I'm broke," you've just affirmed poverty 10,000 times with a wealth-flavored coating. The subconscious reads tone, not text. This is why someone can pick up a technique for the first time, do it sloppily, miss half the steps, and still manifest rapidly. They came to the technique already believing. Maybe life had given them enough wins that they expected good things. Maybe their self-concept around that particular area was already strong. The technique just gave their existing belief a direction to flow. A river doesn't need an elaborate canal system if it's already moving downhill. Meanwhile, you might be building the most sophisticated canal system ever designed. Every technique memorized, every teacher studied, every method practiced with military discipline. But you built it on flat ground. The water sits there. No belief, no flow. So what actually builds belief? Because telling you to just believe is as useful as telling someone drowning to just swim. Belief isn't a switch you flip. It's a state you grow into through specific inner work. The first layer is examining what you currently believe. Write down the thing you want, then write down every thought that surfaces when you imagine already having it. Every objection, every but, every "yeah, right," those responses are your actual belief. They're the substance currently in your syringe. Until you dissolve them, every technique you use will deliver that substance more efficiently into your subconscious. You'll manifest the objection faster. Neville called this process revision. You take the limiting belief, the memory or assumption that contradicts your desire, and you revise it internally. You reimagine it. You strip it of its authority by giving it a new ending. A memory of failure becomes a memory of learning. An assumption of unworthiness gets replaced by an assumption that you've always been the kind of person who receives what you intend. This is where most people quit, because revision requires sustained attention over days and weeks. It requires catching yourself mid-thought, dozens of times daily, and choosing the new assumption over the familiar one. The familiar one feels true because you've lived with it for years. The new one feels like a lie at first. And everything in your nervous system screams that you should trust what feels familiar over what feels forced. But that discomfort is the actual work. The technique, visualization, affirmation, scripting, whatever you prefer, is the easy part. The hard part is maintaining the new assumption in the gaps between sessions. What do you believe at 2 in the afternoon when you're tired and the old thought creeps back in? What do you believe when evidence of the old state shows up in your bank account or your relationships? That's where manifestation actually happens. In the ordinary moments where no technique is running and your default belief is operating unchallenged. Abdullah, Neville's own teacher, demonstrated this perfectly. When Neville wanted to travel to Barbados but had no money for the trip, Abdullah didn't teach him an elaborate technique. He told Neville to sleep as though he were already in Barbados. Feel the sheets of a bed there. Smell the air there. And then Abdullah did something crucial. When Neville came to him days later still worrying about how the trip would happen, Abdullah closed the door in his face and said, "You're in Barbados." The refusal to entertain the old state even for a moment of polite conversation, Abdullah wasn't being cruel. He was showing Neville what total belief looks like. It doesn't waver when circumstances haven't caught up yet. It doesn't check the mailbox nervously. It lives in the end so completely that any conversation about how or when feels absurd, like someone asking you how you'll manage to be in a room you're already standing in. You can feel how different that is from repeating affirmations while secretly tracking whether reality has shifted yet. That tracking is the tell. The moment you check for evidence, you've announced to your subconscious that you don't actually believe it's done. And your subconscious, ever faithful, takes that announcement as the real instruction. The technique you use genuinely matters less than you think. Some people manifest through visualization, others through written intention, others through pure assumption with no formal practice at all. The common thread is always the depth of acceptance beneath the method. A person who writes their desire once in a journal and then lives as though it's settled will outperform someone doing 3-hour visualization sessions while secretly doubting every night. This is why chasing new techniques becomes a trap. Every time you switch methods, from affirmations to subliminals to scripting to the 2-cup method, you're implicitly telling yourself that the last method didn't work. Each switch reinforces the belief that you haven't found the right tool yet. But the right tool was never the issue. You keep replacing syringes when the problem is what you're putting inside them. Pick one technique, any technique, the one that feels natural to you. Then pour your entire focus into what you believe while doing it. When you sit down to visualize, notice, are you hoping or knowing? Are you asking or accepting? Are you performing a ritual to get something? Or are you settling into a state you've already claimed? The shift from hoping to knowing doesn't happen in a single dramatic moment. It happens through repetition of the new assumption until the new assumption feels more natural than the old one. There's a tipping point, different for everyone, where the new belief stops feeling like something you're trying on and starts feeling like something you're remembering about yourself. Past that threshold, techniques become almost unnecessary. You assume, and reality follows, because the substance of your consciousness has changed. Your only job right now is to get honest about what's currently in the syringe. Stop optimizing the delivery system. Stop collecting techniques. Sit with the uncomfortable question. When you close your eyes and claim your desire is done, what does your body actually feel? Relief and settledness, or anxiety wearing a costume of hope? The answer tells you everything. And the willingness to change that answer day by day, thought by thought, assumption by assumption, that's the entire practice. Everything else is packaging.